Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Saints Week 12 Postgame Show. I'm your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by my co-host, Alan Strk. He's at Alan Strk, very easy to remember. Alan, it's been a while, but we finally have a victory to talk about, and it's against the Saints, no less. So despite that there were some wrinkles in this game, it was pretty ugly, some things. We're going to try to be positive because we haven't been able to be positive on one of these shows in like a month. So it's time to just, be a little bit more positive.
I'm going to be very positive. I thoroughly enjoyed that game. For all the mistakes, it was a well-deserved win, both sides of the ball. Running game looking like it's 2022. Yes, we are cracking open beers. Kevin's way more unique than me. I'm drinking a generic Heineken because that's the only thing left in my fridge from a very busy holiday week. Yeah. Kevin, what do you got to go over there? Whoa, that was wild.
Yeah, it's a cranberry hard cider, but it's from the local cidery here. They're actually really damn good. And my wife is gluten-free, so I just have a lot of ciders in the house because of that. So she can't enjoy the beers, but yeah.
Dave would be very proud because he is a big advocate for supporting your local brewery. So
yes,
the Postman will approve this very much.
Oh yeah, support your local breweries, guys, for sure. But yeah, we are going to break down this game. Talk about the Falcons' second two-score win of the season, I think, or maybe the third.
That's right.
I can't remember. It's not bad. It's one of the only ones so far this year. Yeah.
Both against NFC South opponents, they're winning the Kings of this division.
Yes, Kings of the South. Falcons are currently in the playoffs at 5-6. That is not a typo. It's hilarious, but this division. Look, I mean, anybody could win this division. That's how bad things are. So why not the Falcons, right? But guys, we're gonna dive into all that stuff. We're gonna get into your questions as well and all that things. Many things in this one. Defense, offense, special teams got involved. Nice to see Koo active and out there. And some critiques too, but we'll try to be a little bit less pointed this week, but there's definitely some things to talk about. But before we dive in too far, guys, I want to bring you a word from our sponsor, betonline.ag. Folks, the holiday season is off and rolling with the NFL in full stride and the NBA and NHL hitting mid-season form. BetOnline.ag is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info with up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. BetOnline is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports, and it's not just the Big Four. BetOnline has info available at your fingertips on both desktop and mobile at any time for almost any sport that's played. It could be MMA, it could be international soccer. I think they even have some esports on there. If you're that big of a degen like myself who actually follows esports enough to bet on them, you probably can do it at BetOnline. So what are you guys waiting for? Head to BetOnline today. And remember to use our promo code when you sign up. It's BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. I do want to give a quick plug to our first channel member, Scatman. What's up? I was waiting to actually see you in the chat, buddy, before I gave you your shout out, just because you were the first one. I didn't want to do it when you weren't even here. That would be lame. So thanks, Scatman, for signing up. And yes, as you can see, we have just launched channel memberships. So for those of you that are video only viewers or prefer the video stuff and want to support the channel and get some cool perks and things like that, you can do so now by signing up for the channel memberships. We really appreciate that. It helps support the show. You get some cool perks depending on what tier you're at. The biggest one being everyone gets early access to all the videos we publish, usually like roughly a day early, sometimes more, especially in the off-season. It'll start being a couple days early. So if you're really into that, love to see the videos as soon as possible and just want to support the channel, you could sign up right now. And also just got a new member, Brian Mann. What's up, Brian? Thank you so much. So guys, really appreciate everyone for supporting us. And if you're mostly a podcast listener, the Patreon's still probably best for you, but if we wanted to add something for the video viewers so you guys get a little more pizzazz with that. So thanks guys so much for that. But Alan, I know you're feeling very positive about this game, so I'll open the door to you. What's one nice takeaway from this game in your mind, other than just beating the Saints, because that's always nice. But
yeah, I think we first got to start off with the running game, just because look, the running game's shown flashes this year, most notably against the Packers, but I thought this was like 4 quarters of just the running game pretty much controlling, the offensive line controlling the line of scrimmage, and just every running back getting involved. Like, if you wanted a game where all 3 running backs got proper usage, this was it. You had your Bijan moments. You had Allgeier wearing the defensive front down the fourth quarter, which I think is the perfect role for him. And we got some big-time Cordell Patterson flash moments just running through tacklers, because we know he runs through contact and he finishes violently. And there were some moments, particularly that draw to convert on third down, just brilliant stuff. Because I think now you see with a couple of teams, most notably the Lions and also the Falcons, where they kind of got that 4-down mindset. So I think we have to become accustomed to at times where we'll see a 3rd and 6 run where, okay, it's a little frustrating, but we can't get overly upset with it because they're going to operate with a 4-down mentality. And if it's working, it's working. So I just love the fact that the run game really got going. I thought it was Kel McGarry's probably best game. Matthew Bergeron made several great blocks. Lindstrom looked like an all-pro out there. And, we talked about before, man, Parker Hesse is back. He is back. He's on that. He's on the outside. He's making key blocks. He's just what he did last year. He was just like that, kind of like that Swiss Army knife, kind of like what Lee Smith was in Saskatchewan. Just having that key blocker that's so essential for Arthur Smith's offense. So we'll talk about Ridder. I was really encouraged by Ridder, but I think before anything else, it has to be the running game because this is what we've been waiting to see all season. Like 4 quarters of just dominance. Because I think, like I mentioned, the Packers, even the second half against the Panthers, it was good. But to me, this was 4 quarters of winning at the point of attack and just wearing down pretty solid Saints defense. So big ups to the run game.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like the Saints run defense hasn't been anywhere near their like heyday, which is why I was, we were all clamoring for them to go after the Saints because I think they were 23rd in yards per carry allowed this year. They've really taken quite a step back in terms of that run defense. And it was nice to see the Falcons eventually commit really strongly to running the ball. They should have done it earlier in the game. We could quibble about that. I think they should really lean on the run more when they get down into that red zone area. I think that's your bread and butter, and shout out to Parker Hesse, who is clearly just a major guy. I can't, they need to get him on the roster already. Like, come on, why are we making this guy who's clearly like the linchpin of your offense stay on the practice squad? It's just rude to him. But, every single Falcons running back had over 5.5 yards per carry. Tyler Allgeier actually led the way with 6.4 on 10 carries. Bijan had 5.7 on 16 carries, and Cordell Patterson had 5.5 on 8 carries. Ridder was over 4 on 7 carries. He took that loss. Took a couple losses there. The Saints really started to sort of key in on stopping Ridder, and so the Falcons were like, okay, we're just gonna run the ball normally, which that's wise. You would rather run the ball normally than make Ridder carry it. But I really liked that from the Falcons. I liked seeing Drake London get more involved. That's one thing I think Ridder has consistently done is get the ball to Drake London. Those two clearly have a good connection. London goes 5 for 90. Love that. It's just the rest of the passing game. And obviously that touch pass to Bijan under pressure was definitely the throw of the game for Ridder. That was a very good throw. It's just, can we cut down on the mistakes? That's really the one thing. And it's like that first in at the 1, that one's so hard because I think the play was broken from the very beginning. I think we had 2 guys in the same spot. Somebody screwed up there. And so now it's like, so you're asking, so you have a completely broken play and it's a timing route. So Ridder's just letting that go. But it's like, you're asking a lot of a young quarterback to read that timing route instantly and figure out that, everyone's this has been screwed up. Everyone's in the wrong place and not throw that pass because that's what it's designed to do is he steps back, hitches, and then he throws that ball. So it's like, should he have not thrown it? Yeah, exactly. It's like, should he have not thrown it? Yeah, but it's a lot to ask. It's really a lot to ask at this point for Ridder to not throw that ball because that is the design of the play. His guy is in the area and it's just a really badly designed play. So it's like, yes, he shouldn't have thrown it, but it's like if Ridder was Matt Ryan, I would expect Matt Ryan not to throw that pass. But Ridder, I just it was a bad throw, but I'm not going to bury him for that. Now the second one that was just not even close to the receiver, that one you don't throw. Don't throw that. That was a bad interception.
You dial in on that. I still think Van Jefferson could have done more.
Yes.
I just don't think it's acceptable for a receiver to lose at the catch point to an aging Tyrann Mathieu. Look, Tyrann Mathieu's a menace. He makes plays on the ball, but 1v1 in a contested area, Tyrann Mathieu's undersized. You cannot let him outman you like that. No. But still, poor decision by Ridder for sure.
Yeah. Welcome to George Costanza, who's now become a Falcoholic on both Patreon and on the YouTube. Thank you, George. It's not necessary, but we appreciate that. So he says, am I a double Falcoholic or super Falcoholic? What is that? I don't know. We'll have to come up with some like
Super.
special thing for if you're a Falcoholic on both. We'll have to come up with like some super label or something. But appreciate you guys. Yeah, I mean, it's like and speaking of Van Jefferson, I'm kind of like I'm ready to end the Van Jefferson experiment. That has absolutely not worked on any level. Like, it has been a disaster.
Kevin, you know how we do like when free agency comes around, like which players to re-sign, not re-sign? I think we know like who's gonna be top on the list when it comes to not re-sign.
Yeah, and it's like they're dialing stuff up for Van Jefferson, and it feels like wasted plays. I think he's caught like 2 of like 10 or 12 targets now or something. It's just like, man, like we need to stop it with this. Like, Scotty Miller is not that bad. Like,
he's made more plays for the opposing team.
Yeah.
Today, he had the bad pass. I know you thought it was controversial, but he had the OPI against the Vikings that should have been a 4th down conversion. The Titans drop. Like he just made mistakes.
He doesn't block well, which is bad for this offense. Like,
I forget, did he do something against the Commanders that led to an interception?
I don't even remember. Yeah, he hasn't really done anything. Yeah, I mean, he had that.
Really move, and,
me too. It's not working. Yeah.
But,
no, so at this point, it's like I don't know why Kyle Pitts isn't getting Van Jefferson's targets. Like, let's be honest. Like, we're dialing up stuff for Van Jefferson. Like, enough of this, right? Kyle Pitts has 2 catches, and we're dialing up targets to Van Jefferson. It's like, let's not. How about we don't? Let's not and say we did. So yeah, that's one of my nitpicks certainly with this one. But you can't nitpick the run game, because this one, I mean, they dominated, right? It just, especially late in this game, they completely took this one over. 228 rushing yards, dominant, and it's like, it's funny because they win 24-15, getting outgained by the Saints. They had less than 200 passing yards, less yards per play, but it comes down to the defenses. And like, yeah, the Saints defense had 2 takeaways, but they didn't really stifle the Falcons in the red zone except from that one dumb interception, whereas the Falcons defense absolutely shut the Saints down in the red zone. And that was really the difference in the game, not allowing a touchdown.
I mean, we haven't even mentioned his name yet, but my God, Jessie Bates, all pro. He better be in Honolulu. Like, give this guy all his accolades. Like, just the level he's playing at, just both those turnovers, like, that's elite play. Like, just the instinctiveness, just how he read Carr's eyes. But and you saw like Taysom Hill was a little bit loose when he was running, and you just see the form of the punch up. I'm like, this is just an elite player doing what he does. It's like both turnovers were just a work of art. Like, I know we talk about the Panthers game being, but today, man, like he deserves every penny. Like, how does that not get you excited as a fan? Like, both turnovers, like, you replay them over and over again because it's just, that's high level safety play.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and then they just got so unlucky. Like, they get the strip on Carr. It just bounces directly to A.T. Perry. Like, literally bounce passes directly to A.T. Perry. It's like, wow. That's some Falcons luck right there.
Revenge moment.
Yeah, that is brutal. Yeah. Like that there's no way that should have happened. But
by the way, can we just talk about how bad ball security was by Carr there? Like, I don't know how a veteran quarterback, like, you see how loose he was? I'm like, how do you move like this? Like, you're in an open field running. Like, I don't know. If you want bash quarterback, I thought Carr was horrendous. If he wasn't throwing to Olave, he was an absolute disaster in this game.
Yeah, and obviously that's a big, loss for the Saints when Olave comes out. He's had 7 catches basically like in the first half. Falcons had no answer for him. It was very bizarre seeing like how little respect they seemed to have for Olave. Like, they didn't really.
Why it was on him?
Well,
bizarre.
It was that, and they started Mike Hughes, and they kept, and then when Mike Hughes got hurt, D'Alford came in, and then they pulled Alford off the field again when Hughes came back, and then they eventually benched Hughes. But it's like, your game plan is to match up Mike Hughes on Chris Olave. That's your game plan? Like if I'm tired of this crap from this coaching staff. This is one thing I will say. If a guy is active, play him. If he's not healthy enough to play, don't make him active, because guess what? Mike Hughes got hurt, and then it's like, oh, well, now we have to play D'Alford. Like, and if you're actually starting Mike Hughes over D'Alford, like, that is malpractice, because there's not been a single game where he's even come close to D'Alford's play.
Wasn't Alford a full practice this week or no?
Yes. I don't know if he was full, but he was definitely supposed to be healthy. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, but if he's not healthy, don't make him active, because then you need a healthy guy back there. And clearly he looked healthy enough to me. I mean, he didn't play a flawless game, but like,
I mean, Taysom Hill always gets one on everybody, man. I'm just so
but,
accustomed. Taysom Hill's gonna have this one moment, like,
yes,
all right,
yes.
Yeah,
but it's like you get one catch on a 5'10" nickel corner, which is a bad matchup for the nickel corner. Like, I'm not gonna hold that against D'Alford. Like, okay, like, you know, it's just, and I think there was a little bit of a push off as well. I mean, I don't blame them for not calling it, but it was a little bit of a push off. But yeah, I mean, you would like to see the defense like shut down the opponent a little bit better in terms of the yardage, but look, they tightened up when it mattered. They kept him out of the end zone the entire game, and on that last drive, they did not let the quarterback run for like a huge play. Even though they did miss the sack, they did make the play afterwards.
Bud Dupree just cannot finish. Bud Dupree, like every time he wins, which is rare, like it's just like But hey, who did finish, man? And look, I know he's going against a backup right tackle, but that Arnold Ebiketie sack was one of the cleanest wins we've seen from a Falcons edge rusher this year. Let's give him his due, man. That was sweet. Yeah, great hand usage.
I loved it. Yeah, I mean, I we need to see more of that, obviously, because they don't have edge presence. They really, really need to find a way to get edge pressure, and Arnold Ebiketie getting better is one way to do that, right? And I hope they can continue doing it because they desperately need him to come alive. They need someone to develop there, and we know it's going to be arguably their biggest need. Quarterback's probably up there too, but man, they got to find a way to get more consistent pass rush, because without Grady Jarrett, like that dynamic duo of Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata was like covering up a lot, because those two were just so damn good that they made it look like they were generating a pass rush, like even when the edge was doing nothing. And now that Jarrett's gone, it's like Onyemata can't do it by himself. Although I do think like Kentavious Street has been pretty decent. So like that's nice. He
has moments where he just blows off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't think he's someone that should be getting 30 snaps, but he's definitely one of those like contributors that I think is good. I didn't see too much of Taquan Graham, which was disappointing, because I thought he was like one of the few highlights from that Cardinals game, and believe me, there were very few highlights from that Cardinals game. So you like to see more from Taquan Graham, but the defense hold up firm in the red zone, and I just think they're the best players shine. Like, I know he had one bad missed tackle, but I thought Caden Ellis was a beast in this game.
Yeah,
I think
it's tough.
Tackles per loss.
Yeah, it's tough to tackle Kamara on that play. I mean, that's a tough play.
Yeah, but I don't know. Did you notice Caden Ellis a lot? I thought this was one of his. Like I think he had a point to prove given the matchup.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ellis played great. Landman had another really good game. I mean, the linebackers aren't like great coverage linebackers, but they're like competent. Like they're not getting their pants pulled down, but it's like they're not plus coverage players, but they're just smart, and they're typically in position. And that's been enough. Now, this is where like Troy Anderson would have been really nice to have, because he's got the athleticism to match up on Kamara out of the backfield. Without Troy Anderson, they just don't really have that at linebacker. But these two are so sound against the run. They're sort of making up for their shortcomings against the pass. And like, again, they're not bad coverage linebackers. It's just they're not super difference makers like we've seen like Troy Anderson show flashes of. So, I mean, I really like those guys. That linebackers looking much better than I think we thought it would after having an injury to a starter. Like with Caden Ellis and Nate Landman in there, it feels like that group is definitely building, and they've got some depth for the first time in a while, where they didn't just fall off a cliff as soon as a starter went down.
Yeah, we gotta have measured expectations of them, because neither of them have those intangibles where they could be those like 3-down rangy linebackers. The ideal 3-down linebacker where they could cover 20 yards downfield. Like, no, they're more run thumpers, but I think they make up for it plenty against the run. Like Caden Ellis, he was just blowing through lanes today. And then Landman had that huge hit on Taysom Hill. Like, these linebackers, they play head on, because I think one of the biggest frustrations, and not to slander Deion Jones, but like the Falcons at times back in like 3-4 seasons ago, they had linebackers that just they would get blown off the ball. Like, you would ask them to challenge blocks, and they were unable to do it. They couldn't blow up run lanes as much. So now you have these two linebackers that just embrace the contact, and it's beautiful to watch. And like, say what you want with Fontenot when it comes to his drafting, but free agency wise, it's just hit after hit. Like, this was a really good free agency when you look back on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've nailed it, and you can complain about Fontenot's drafting, and I don't. Again, it's like I have a hard time blaming just the GM for drafting, because it's really a collective thing. And it's like, True. He was drafting for a different defense, and then all of a sudden they got a new defense in here, and it's like, oh, well, D'Angelo Malone and Arnold Ebiketie, they're not great fits. It's like, that's not Fontenot's fault that they changed schemes, but you'd still like to get more. Like, obviously the Richie Grant one, if you could go back, I don't remember the details, but like I know they traded down, which I'm always a fan of trading down, but like I don't remember if they had stayed put, if they would have had a chance to get Javon Holland, and just like imagine Javon Holland and Jessie Bates right now. I mean, that would be sick. But I think that he did end up going before their pick. But I'm not entirely sure. I know he went before they had a chance to draft Richie after they traded down, but I'm not sure on that one. But I mean, I think Helms has been decent. So that's nice to see. Yeah, he likes to hit. Again, he's more of that box safety. So they're probably looking for that. They're still looking for that safety next to Jessie Bates like next year. I mean, we did see Richie Grant have that nice pass breakup. It's just so inconsistent. That's the issue with Richie. It's just you never know what you're going to get, and that's not great when you have an aggressive defense.
Man.
Yeah,
you saw Trey McBride was eating him up. Conquo, like he just that's his issue. Do you want to get into Ridder? I feel like we haven't talked much about Desmond Ridder, and I don't know if this is a hot take, man, but I thought this was the second best game of the season.
Yeah, even I mean I didn't love the picks, but again, it's like this is what Ridder's been doing, and I agree with you. It's like down to down, he's throwing the ball well, and typically like I think making decent reads. It's just like the turnovers, they're so bad. Yeah.
But to me, those were like his only real mistakes. And I think the biggest encouraging aspect of this game is, and we'll see with PFF what his numbers are, but I thought he was lights out against the blitz. Anytime there was a free rusher, he delivered. Like that particular third down to Drake London, I thought he shook out the ball maybe a second earlier. But you see, he waits on London, and then they just get a big chunk play. And he knows, like, London, what he could do after a catch. Exploit the mismatch against Marcus May, and they get it. You look at the big touchdown to Bijan. Like, Pete Warner was charging in unblocked, and he just lofts it up perfectly. And I think there was a Kyle Pitts conversion on third down where they were blitzing. So it just seemed like whenever the Saints brought pressure, whether it was a simulated pressure or just overall blitz, like, Ridder was just dialed in. And then you saw scrambling. Like, he just seemed a lot more confident out there. So that's why, look, the picks are frustrating, but like I even put this game over the Tampa game because I think the Tampa game, he had those self-inflicted mistakes. I think those both turnovers, okay, the second one mostly on him, but I think those still could have been avoided. To me, like, I think this game, outside the Houston game, I thought this was like his most complete performance. And yeah, the numbers maybe won't say it, but it just seemed like he was making the right decisions and he just was throwing the ball a lot more confidence. Like some of those drives, and just him and London, they have such a great rapport. And then Pitts on the inbreakers. So I think there's a lot to be encouraged about Ridder just because I just think his confidence up and the way he handled pressure. Because I think the biggest knock with Ridder outside the turnovers have been how he copes with pressure. Because I think he takes a lot of unnecessary sacks. Yeah. Today, if anything, he evaded multiple sacks on the same drive, believe it or not. So kudos to him. I think he played a hell of a game.
Yeah, it's like the numbers weren't amazing. And, the picks sully it a bit. I think one of those was absolutely his fault. I think the first one at the one, that's just that whole play was a goddamn mess. I assign blame to every single person in the organization for that.
Wait till you watch all 22 of that.
Oh, my God.
It was Jefferson, Janu, and Bijan.
They were within like 5. Yeah, it was terrible, man.
Dirk Cutter would have been proud of that play call with the lack of spacing.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I really put that more on Smith. But the second one, as much as I want to get on Ben Jefferson's case, Ridder, not a good decision. Yeah,
no, bad decision there. But I did think he, overall, the passing was fine. He got a couple balls tipped. Again, that's not really on him. That's just kind of one of those random things. I thought he was making good decisions about when to run. That's one thing that we've needed to see him get better at is triggering on those runs faster. And he was gashing the Saints in the first half with that. They sort of adjusted to stop that. Of course, they didn't adjust to stop the rest of the run game, which is more important, honestly. But to me, since his first few games, since week 4, basically, and on starting in the Houston game, he's actually, I think, been throwing the ball well. We've seen some wow throws, we've seen some good throws. It's just the turnovers. You can't turn the ball over. You can't. You could throw a pick now and then, but it's with him, it's clearly a trend. He just turns the ball over. He's a turnover machine. And that's the big thing.
Zone too. Yeah. Red zone is the door.
Yes. So he can't do that. If he keeps turning the ball over, I don't care how well he's throwing the ball in between the picks. If he keeps up this pace of just turning the ball over every single game, he's not going to be a starter. He's not going to be an NFL starter because no team is going to put up with that. I definitely blame Smith a lot for the way this offense looks. I mean, it's not good. It's not a well-coached offense. It's clearly not. Like, it was sloppy as hell. Guys are always making mistakes on their routes. They're blowing blocks. Like, the whole offense just looks sloppy as hell, and that's really one of the big takeaways still, is that this team coming off a bye still looked really sloppy offensively. But in this one, they got it done on the ground finally, which is huge for this team because they really need to lean on the run game as much as they can. And like, they made enough plays to make it work, but like, man, it's like you can't be relying on this defense as much as you were early in the season, because like, without Grady Jarrett, it's just not the same. It's clearly not. And like, this Saints offense isn't good either. Like, they're especially down like multiple weapons and all this. Like, you gotta be able to
Thomas.
Like, no Michael Thomas, no Chris Olave. Chris Olave, the bigger loss there, in my opinion. It's just like, you can't, like, you're not going to play cupcakes like this all the time. Like, now you get to go play Tim Boyle next week. So like, that's not, exactly, like, maybe it's okay. But like, you can't depend on this defense to win you games. You got to find a way for the offense to score. And, they go from playing this defense to the Jets defense, which is going to be a drastically different situation. And I don't know what you do going up against the Jets. I think you
I will say they're
really
vulnerable
careful
on the ground. You can't run on them. So I think this is going to be a great test for, and I still want to focus on this game, but just want to quickly look ahead. But the Jets, given that they're on the field for like 35 minutes a game, given how bad the offense is, they could be worn down. But it could be one of those games where Ridder might throw the ball 18 times because you do not want to mess with that secondary and the pass rush. But back to this game, you were talking about the sloppiness offense. We have to talk about that fourth down. Like when McGarry got motion to left, I'm like, okay, they're gonna play some power football here. All right. And then there was just a huge space, and then Ridder holds it, and I'm just like, there's nobody there, and it's 4th and 2.
Yeah.
What'd you make of it?
Oh my God, that play was an abomination. Like, I get that you do weird, like sometimes you'll do stuff where you'll move your you'll move your tackles, you'll do like a weird play call, but I don't think I've ever seen it executed that poorly or in that manner, where it's like there were so many, like this is what I dislike so intensely about Arthur Smith's play calls, is there's so many ways it can go wrong. And this offense executes terribly. Like, this is one of the worst executing offenses in the NFL. A lot because of his coaching. And they run these complex plays with all these moving parts and all this like trickery and bizarre bullshit stuff. And like, one person makes a mistake and it's blown up for a loss. And that's exactly what happened. Like, I mean, it was, people got destroyed. The Saints didn't fall for it for a second. I mean, it just looked so ugly. And it's like, just take the damn points. Like, if that's your go-to play, or if that's the type of stuff you feel like you have to do to get 4th and 2, take the damn points. Kick the field goal, man. Like,
no, the thing is, though, I think they ran the ball. It was like 3rd and 6. I don't know if it was a Patterson.
Yeah, it was 3rd and 8, and they ran it. Yeah.
So like, they had the 4-down mentality. What I'm curious, and this is the only way I can defend Arthur Smith, do you think maybe Ridder held on to the ball like it was an instinctive decision where he, like, do you think it was a design zone read, or did Ridder just keep the ball for himself because he didn't like the look? Because that's the only way I could maybe defend Smith there. Like, what do you think? You think it was designed for Ridder to do the QB keeper, or did he just do it because he didn't like the look?
I think it was his own read, and he read. He was reading the interior defender who was crashing on Allgeier, so he kept it, which I think was the right call. But like, you're running into the teeth of the defense without a numbers advantage, and then you had somebody whiff on their block, and then it's like tackle for loss. So that's what I'm saying. It's like
Daryl Hodge was there. It wasn't a tight end.
No, and that's why it's so stupid. It's like the play call in a vacuum. It's like this type of misdirection play isn't necessarily terrible. I hate that you're taking your great run blocking tackle and like not even putting him over there for your run play. That seems really stupid to me. But like, sure, could the play have worked if it was blocked properly? Yeah, probably. Like, sure, it could have. But it wasn't, and this team doesn't execute well. So you need layups. You need like easy plays, simple stuff for this offense. And they keep drawing up this whole offense is like a goddamn Rube Goldberg machine where they got all these like parts to get like a 2-yard gain. It's like, okay, we're going to do like these 5 things, and this guy's going to come over here and he's going to run around and he's going to fall down and do the worm, and then he's going to get up and run for like, run a goddamn counter. I don't care. Like, just run, just
and to do
stop
it on 4th down too. It's just like, really, because because I think we've seen Matthews on a few plays this year get put on the right side next to McGarry, but I have not seen like legit Caleb McGarry get motion to the left. And you just see those funky things. Like there was a play, and I know you absolutely hated this. There was a pass play where I could have sworn at least Bergeron, but maybe Lindstrom too. Both of them were legit pulling on a pass play. And I'm just like, what on earth is happening? But thankfully, Ritter just said enough of this. I'm just
I'm getting out of here. I don't like this shit.
Yeah. But literally, there was we've seen a guard on a pass play pull, but I saw both guards pull on like a play action fake. I'm just like, oh no. But then credit to Ritter being decisive. But it's just that funkiness. And like, look, I know Arthur Smith wants to be a little unorthodox, but there's just better ways to do it, man. Like, God, like that motion with McGarry, I was just like, okay, power football, let's do it. And I'm like, oh no.
No, we're running the other way. We're running into the vacated gap that Caleb McGarry just left. Yeah, I mean, they're just really wilding with some of the ways they design these plays, and it's like, I just don't understand why you feel like you have to do so much. Like, this offense is like so fragile. It's like people make mistakes constantly, and it's like we're drawing up these like paper mache play designs where it's like, okay, well, if this one guy misses his block, then it's a tackle for loss, and this guard now has to pull on this pass protection. If he's not there in time, then it's a sack, and it's like, can't you just like call it? Like, why can't you just be normal? Like, run a goddamn normal offense. It doesn't have to be like this. Like,
hey, to be fair, they did in the second half, and they ran the ball really well. So it's just a matter of like, hey, let's just dial in on being normal. How about that?
Yeah, like,
and look, because some people will say this, the zone read has been one of the most effective play. Like when Ritter has taken those keepers this year, it's worked pretty much every time. It's led to touchdowns. Look, we won't mention Tampa Bay game, but look, it was an effective in terms of a yard standpoint. Like it's more times than not worked. It's just the motion with McGarry to left, and then just you have nobody there, and you still go just like it's just, and it's fourth down. So it's just like in these moments in a hot competitive, divisional game, high stakes, like there's not much margin for errors. So I think that's what's frustrating. You have, and like you mentioned before, you have arguably top 3 kicker in the league. Like you have automatic points with Coop. So they got to value that because I know people were going to hate that I mentioned him, but the Broncos, I don't know how they're doing right now because we're recording while they're playing, but Sean Payton's like not really gone for it during their win streak, and they've won in one possession games, and it's because they trust their kicker, Will Lutz. So look, we're all for being aggressive and going for a fourth down, but there's moments where it's just look, you got an asset with your kicker, and just value him. So that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. It's just
should we get the fan question?
Yeah, let's get to some before they start sacking up. We got George with a couple here. What's up, George? He says, $2. I'm certain that Kyle Pitts must have insulted Arthur Smith's mustache. Yes, we won, and I'm a believer that it might be more that Carr sucks more than Arthur Smith being effective at game and personnel management. In 2 years, when Kyle Pitts goes to a real coach, I'm going to start drafting him again. Yeah, that would be nice. I just can't understand this game plan for Kyle Pitts. That's one of my biggest issues. And like they so badly need a second receiving option, and it's just like, no, we're not going to throw it to Pitts. We'll spread it around. We're not going to give it to Pitts, but we'll spread it around. It's like I just hate this offense so much. But
and I feel like the snaps are reduced too.
Yeah,
and it's just once again we talk about the red zone. Like it's the play where it's Van Jefferson, Jonnu Smith. Like, man, like can we get Drake London and Kyle Pitts in the same area? Like it's worked before. Like they run so many high-low concepts, but they don't do it in the red zone. They just do it across the field. So. Like I understand the frustration. Like I have this unsettling feeling that like Kyle Pitts gonna end up with the Chiefs and go for like 75 catches, 1,200 yards. Yep. He's gonna get like 9 touchandowns. Andy Reid will find a way.
No other team would misuse Kyle Pitts like this. That to me is why Arthur Smith has to be fired, because it's like you handpicked this guy to be the face of your first draft class, and you have no clue how to use him. You are like, play in line. We'll have you block a defensive end and get crushed, and then be like, well, he needs to block better. No.
The thing that makes it even more disheartening is like that rookie year was so special. Like, because I assume, Kevin, you got people that always like fancy friends that are like, oh, what's going with Kyle Pitts? Why? It was like the Julio thing, although on a much grander stage. Yeah. But like they would be like, oh, why can't Kyle Pitts get enough plays? Where it's just like he did his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like the Falcons won what? 6? Well, they won 6 games or 7 games in Arthur Smith's first year. I think 7.
Yeah, they won 7.
I think 3 or 4 of those was mainly because of Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts with Matt Ryan. Like they pretty much carried them to victories. So like Kyle Pitts has numbers to back it up. So that's what makes it even more frustrating. It's not just like a 3-year struggle.
They don't use him as a featured part of the offense at all. He's like a blocking tight. He's like a glorified blocking tight end. Like it's
Watch
sad.
that Cardinals game. Yeah, you watched that Cardinals game, man. It was not a lot of blocking there. Oh,
yeah, no, and it's like we know he doesn't block well, so why are you playing him in line so much? It's like they've cut his snaps elsewhere to make. I think against the Cardinals he played 38 snaps in line. He played like 10 elsewhere. And I know some people are like, oh, he can't play outside. He's too slow. Run Kyle Pitts' numbers at wide receiver and tell me that with a straight face that he's not athletic enough to play wide receiver. You are wrong.
One tape, man. You watched that 2012 tape, man. Those games against the Dolphins and Saints. I'm telling you, man. Oh, but
he can play outside. He's not Tyreek Hill. We don't need him to be that.
And nothing like who do you want to see them outside? You want we just mentioned Van Jefferson before.
There's nobody else.
Miller,
Mac Hollins.
like who else are you gonna put on the outside that's such a bigger asset? Like, come on.
It's just and he's actually a good blocker against corners. Like he could dominate corners on the outside, but no, it's just they're like refusing to. It's like they. I mean, I think part of the problem is they can't coach him up. Like I think it's pretty clear that their wide receiver coaching is awful. Because guys are constantly running the wrong routes or running to the incorrect areas of the field. Like, let's be honest. Like, this is a huge indictment. Like, all of your wide receivers are running the wrong routes and running to the wrong areas of the field. The spacing is terrible. Like, it's a whole offensive staff problem. But like, they can't coach him to play wide receiver. Like, their coaching staff is inept. That's my opinion. But like, if you can't make Kyle Pitts into a wide receiver, like, yeah. Sorry, TJ. Sorry, TJ. I mean, I don't know whose fault it is exactly, but I do know that the spacing is awful. The routes look bad for everyone. And it's like somebody, like, I don't think every wide receiver on the Falcons suddenly forgot how to run routes. Sorry, I don't think that's the case. So
Mac Hollins has come off like a career year.
Yep.
Scotty Miller's always been useful. Like, so we could look at coaching for that. And it's unfortunate because like not every great receiver coach came from a receiving background. Like let's not forget that 2016 team, Raheem Morris was the receiver coach. And you have people like Sanu and Gabriel come out saying, oh, he's phenomenal, even though he comes from a defensive background. Like you don't got to be a wide receiver to be a wide receivers coach. Like, so. No.
And like an ex-quarterback could be a good receiver coach. I don't see there's any reason that it couldn't work. It's just not working right now. So it's just bizarre. Like I will never understand anything about how they use Kyle Pitts, and like you went out and made him the face of your team to use him like this. That to me is like, wow, we can't do this. Like you can't whiff that hard. You passed on a quarterback to take him.
You watch Justin Fields against the Lions. You're gonna watch him tomorrow night if you got time. He's on prime time. Like Justin Fields, man, he's playing good.
I know he hasn't been like great, but like seriously, like you took Kyle Pitts over Justin Fields to give him 2 targets. Like, it's just goddamn embarrassing. Yeah.
Rectified this by trading for.
It's not Kyle Pitts' fault. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not willing to throw Kyle Pitts under the bus for this coaching staff. So,
agree.
Maybe they would. I mean, they seem to be perfectly willing to throw him under the bus. They're barely even utilizing him. So that's my beef. I mean, this is a win. So.
This is your number one, man. Like, obviously, look, we're both passionate, but like, this is like your number one. Like, I'm getting my pitchfork out. Like, I am not tolerating none of this.
This is inexcusable. Yeah.
It's
a fireable offense, in my opinion. I mean, you can't use your once in a lifetime tight end prospect. You can't use him. You can't figure it out. Like, get someone in here that can, please.
Last thing about Pitts, in terms of this subject matter, like, how encouraged were you? Because we do have to say, like, the Texans game, Commanders, and Bucks. He had that 3-game stretch where I felt he was featured pretty heavily. And he made several big plays. You know, even had a red zone touchdown. Can you imagine that? Like, were you really encouraged by that? And you thought this was maybe like a sign of things to come? And then part of your frustration now is just it's gone.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, we've seen it. We know he can do it. And then they just don't. It's like they make him work through so much trash and spend so much time blocking that it's like he's clearly like an ancillary read on most plays because he's just blocking so much. Like, I don't know, man. You can't convince me that this team knows what the hell they're doing if they can't figure out how to use Kyle Pitts. Like, I can't, like, any offensive staff that can't figure out how to get the ball to Kyle Pitts is not deserving of being an NFL coaching staff. Like, you have to figure this out. And they didn't figure it out at the bye, clearly. They threw him like 2 passes. So,
and if you watch that Saints-Vikings game, T.J. Hawkinson was like, I think T.J. Hawkinson
feasted.
like 13 catches. 10 of them were uncontested. It was just freebie after freebie after freebie. So, look, I love what the offense did today. I don't want to be too critical, but, look, I understand your frustration given
that's the big one. Yeah.
Kyle Pitts should be getting minimum 6 targets, but ideally 8 to 10 targets. But
yeah, there's no one else here. Who the hell are you throwing the ball to? Why are we wasting time with Scotty Miller design plays and Bijan? Like, I mean, I like Bijan, don't get me wrong, but, like, it's like Van Jefferson, Matt Collins. Like, we've literally trotted out like 6 different receivers trying to find a wide receiver too, and Kyle Pitts is just standing there like, well, I guess they're not going to give me the ball. You know, let's exhaust all options at wide receiver before we just throw the ball to goddamn Kyle Pitts. But, you know, whatever. I'm just accepting at this point, and that's why I feel like we have to get rid of this coaching staff, because they're never going to use Kyle Pitts correctly. Like, they've shown that they literally cannot figure it out. They're incapable of doing it. Or, like, even if they do it, they just won't go back to it. They're like, nope, that would be too obvious. You know, we can't put Kyle Pitts in the red zone. That would be too obvious. They'll know we're going to throw it to him. So we have to instead, if we put in Michael Pruitt and Scotty Miller and Van Jefferson, they won't know who we're going to throw to, because all those guys suck. So, you know. No, I'm just kidding. That's too harsh. That's too harsh.
No more Kyle Pitts questions.
No more Kyle Pitts questions. I'm too hot. I'm too hot.
Come on, we got to win here. Like, this should be
I'm too hot.
Sunday.
We're moving on. Yeah, we're moving on.
And all these frustrations are valid. I'm not dismissing any of it, but let's try to avoid Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. No more Kyle Pitts. I'm too hot. Okay, moving on. We got a Richie Grant question. That's much better. George Costanza said, Kevin, your hero, UCF legend, hero, Dragon Slayer, Richie Grant, didn't give up a 73-yard bomb today, so we got that going for us. Yeah, big improvement by Richie Grant. He did have that nice pass breakup. He's good for like one good play a game at least, so there's that.
Hey, I'm not look, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I wonder if Rashid Shaheed was playing. We might be singing a different tune. I think we're a little fortunate. I mean, Shaheed, to me, if Shaheed, I'm not putting him in the Kyle Pitts. Once again, I'm not trying to get the Kyle Pitts, but like, Rashid Shaheed, you put him in a different offense, I think he could be like a 1,100-yard receiver. Like, he is dynamic, and I think the Falcons caught a big break with him getting injured, because he could turn over a game in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, no, it's a damn good thing that the Saints lost all their deep threats, because that's been the one way to attack this Falcons defense, because they can't get pressure, so they are really vulnerable to giving up those big plays, and luckily they didn't have to contend with that. But you know, we'll see what happens next week. But I mean, it's Tim Boyle, so, and it's not his first start. It's not his first start.
More than 15 yards.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I still can't understand how he got into the NFL, because his college stats were so bad. But yeah, I don't know. One of those great mysteries. We got one more. Maybe that's it. Yeah, it could be. We got George Costanza with one more. He says, how do we know if the Van Jefferson trade was a real bust? Arthur Smith hasn't been able to use Kyle Pitts against cupcake teams. We have to grade Van Jefferson on a very steep curve, because Arthur Smith clearly sucks at personnel management and spacing. Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, Van Jefferson's been getting targeted. He just hasn't made any plays. So, like, that's the opposite. It's like they're obsessed with getting Van Jefferson the ball. He just isn't good. Whereas, like, they're very clearly not trying to get the ball to Kyle Pitts, and he is good. So it's bizarre.
Sean McVay, this is another cap in Sean McVay's stellar career. Like, Van Jefferson was like a key figure of their Super Bowl offense, especially when Odell was dealing with injuries and they lost Robert Woods for the year. Like, Van Jefferson legit had moments where he was catching like 60-yard bombs from Stafford. So I don't know, man. Sean McVay got the best of him clearly. But,
yeah.
Oh, what happened to the positive questions, man?
Like,
we're too hot. Double 2-possession win here. They're in first place, man.
They're in first place. We got to talk about that. Yeah. So,
what about Cordell Patterson? Like, dude, how hyped was
Patter season? He's back. Yeah. No, Patterson's just so fun. You know, I hope he could keep running like this forever. I know he was hurt to start the season. That was part of why he was starting slow. But it's just nice to have that. Like, especially like if any of the running backs do miss time, to just know that you have Patterson like ready to just come in and play. That's always nice.
You saw in the Tampa win. That's what you had to do.
You had to do it. So, you know, I love Patterson. You know, I think obviously we gave Parker Hesse his flowers. It's so nice to have him back. You know, I think finally seeing Bijan be the key piece on the ground is important. But I just like they take him off the field so much. I feel like it's hard for him to actually establish a rhythm. I feel like he gets like 1 or 2 carries, then he's off the field. And it's like, how are we going to give him a chance to get into any sort of flow if we just keep pulling him all the time? I know they like want to keep him fresh, but it's like, you're 4-6. Like there's no keeping fresh. Like you got to win these games or you're done. So it's just bizarre.
That's helping. I feel like there's a bad tendency of taking him off the field in critical situations.
Yeah,
I think that as well. But I think it's still very encouraging to see him finally getting red zone carries and him to score a rushing touchdown. Like it was a good moment. Like Bijan, a great block. I think McGarry as well. And like he just that vision he has, man. I know we can talk about his explosive traits, but like when he sees a hole, he does not hesitate. Like there's no questioning Bijan Robinson processing. Like he's gonna get downhill and he's gonna make things happen. So hopefully more continued touchdowns, because I do think that's important just to see a guy like him get those rushing touchdowns, because you want him to make those key plays, because you can only do so much yardage wise. Eventually you guys score. And look, we love Tyler Allgeier, but I wonder now after this game, maybe like the best fit for Tyler Allgeier, 2 or 3 carries at most in the first half. But if you're playing with the lead in the fourth quarter, give him like 5-6 carries and just because you saw how the Saints defense, they just looked defeated trying to tackle him. Like we call him the human bowling ball for a reason, and I thought he did a stellar job in the fourth quarter. And I'm happy that his yards per, because I think he has like the second worst yards per carry in the league right now, which is very unfortunate. I think it's like him and Dameon Pierce for running backs at over 75 carries.
Yeah.
So hopefully he starts building himself back up statistically, because I don't think Allgeier, like his vision's not great, but I think it's more just bad run blocking than Allgeier when it comes to
exactly. His yards before contact are abysmal. Like it's so bad, his yards before contact. And people, for those that don't understand that stat, that's the yards before he's hit, which is typically an offensive line stat, not a running back stat. Now, the running back can influence a little bit if they're super elusive or things like that, but like for the most part, it's an offensive line stat. And like Allgeier's blocking has been so bad like throughout the early part of the season that his yards before contact is just awful. So that has a lot to do with it. And
to me, it's like, you don't forget how to run after like what he did in his rookie year. No. So I think it's been unfortunate for him. So hopefully maybe this is his best role, like being the finisher, like have Bijan's the featured option, use Cordell Patterson as a change of pace. And look at the Falcons. They're trying to make the playoffs, win the division. They're going to be playing with leads. They got some real favorable matchups coming up. So maybe Allgeier, be the fourth quarter guy, punish these teams and close it out.
And there's like nothing against Allgeier, but he's a running back 2 on an offense that has a legit star running back 1. It's not a slight to him. It's just that you need to get your star running back as many touches as possible. Like he should be taking because it's not because Allgeier's not good. I would say that he is good. He's just not dynamic. Like he's going to get what's blocked and he's going to maximize what's blocked for the most part, but he's not breaking off any big runs, other than, obviously if he gets a big hole, he's got the nice contact bounce. He could sometimes slip out, but Bijan can run away from people, and he hasn't really got, the blocking hasn't been that much better for Bijan either. He's typically got guys in his face pretty much every carry, but every time Bijan gets the carry, he has a chance to break off a big run that Allgeier really can't. And the same thing with Patterson. They're just not as dynamic. So, like, that's why you keep handing it to Bijan, because he is just as good in short yardage, not because he's a battering ram, but because he's so elusive. He has the great vision. We've seen him bounce off contact, but he gives you that dynamic ability to turn those, like Tyler Allgeier is going to turn a 5-yard gain into like a 5-yard gain or an 8-yard gain. Bijan could turn a 5-yard gain into a 30-yard gain if he escapes. That's the difference. And it's like, again, and I'm not going to harp on this too much. It's like, you spend a top 10 pick on this guy. You clearly know that, but you just refuse to do it. I don't know what this obsession is with keeping him fresh. Like if it would be one thing if the team was like 7-4 and cruising. It's like, oh, well, let's not overwork him. But you've been getting your ass kicked for 3 weeks. Like there is no keeping fresh. There is like, if we don't win these games now, we're done. Like if they lost this game, they'd be out of it. So like, what's the point of keeping someone fresh if your season's on the brink? Like you can't play these long games when your season's like an inch from being over. It's just like, what are your priorities? Like keeping a player fresh for the playoff run that you're probably not going to even get. Like it's just bizarre.
And look, I think hopefully this game is the launching pad, because now these are pivotal wins, and I think the coach staff realized that. You saw the Cardinals game obviously didn't come to fruition, but now it's just you see Bijan's a feature guy, and like now he's going to probably touch the ball 20 times a game, if not more, which should be the priority. And I think you made an excellent point. You tweeted this out. And look, we praise Ridder, but I do notice with like when Ridder tries to throw the ball to Bijan outside the touchdown, it's not accurate. Like there was one play I think he was just going like quick outside check down, and like he had to catch off his hip. I'm like, if Ridder leads him, because Bijan in the open field, he's gonna he embarrasses linebackers. Go watch that Jacksonville game, like in one-on-one situation. So hopefully, because I think one of the biggest things for this offense, and this is why that touchdown to Bijan was so special, what Ridder did, is just I think this offense could go a whole other level if they could just get consistent production of him from a receiving standpoint, because he's so dynamic and he creates mismatches, and this offense desperately needs players that can separate and create mismatches. Like they were all talking about positionless football, and that kind of looks goofy now given how bad offense has been. But if they could at least get Bijan more involved, I'm not talking about just like screens or flats, or I'm talking about like actual routes, like put him in the slot, put him on the outside, or even run him on choice routes, like use him as a pass catcher and generate big plays. I think that would really turn this offense into, obviously, look, they're not going to be a juggernaut at this point, but be in a position where you could score over 23 points a game. Like I think 23 points should be a good standard for this team now, given all the talent. Like they're averaging like 17. Like that's unacceptable. Like this offense, especially given the state of the defense right now, they need to be scored at least 23 points to make the playoffs. So hopefully with Bijan's usage, we start seeing more from a receiving standpoint. But I'm not talking about checkdowns. Like actually use him as a pass catcher and try to get him those mismatches against linebackers like the DeMario Davis, who's a fantastic player, but he is 34 years old and definitely doesn't have the range he once had.
Yeah. I mean, I think early in the season we saw that they were kind of overloading Bijan as a receiver, like making him run option routes and stuff, where it's like this guy's literally never played receiver before. Like he's never taken slot snaps ever, and you're asking him to run option routes, which is something that like even rookie like wide receivers typically you don't ask them to do. So like they put way too much on his plate. He looked overwhelmed. Now he just naturally made some plays because he's Bijan. But then that led to me being like, we should probably like ratchet that back, get him the typical RB targets, like get him the stuff out of the backfield, let him run those wheel routes, let him run down the sideline, maybe do some simple stuff on the outside or screens or things like that. And instead of like sort of ratcheting back what the complexity of what they asked him to do, they just stopped throwing him the ball in the middle of the season. They just stopped throwing him the ball entirely, which is like, that's not what I said. Like that's not what anyone was asking for. It was just like, wow, you put way too much on his plate. Let's dial it back slightly, run some more simple stuff. And then they were like, actually, we're just not going to throw you the ball anymore. And now, now they're starting to incorporate some of that stuff back in. And it's like, we really need that dynamic short yardage target. So like they need to get him up to speed. But again, I think it's the receiver coaching. Like he's not running clean routes. He's not doing the right things as a pass catcher. He's not like adapting to that role. And if it was just Bijan struggling, it might be like, oh, well, he's a rookie running back. He's having some issues. It's everybody. Everybody's struggling with the routes. Everybody's struggling with the play concepts. There's constant errors. To me, that has to be coaching because there's no way the whole team just sucks at route running. You can't blame every player. So like they have to figure out some way to fix that. But because I think Bijan is so talented, like you said, like he should be a dynamic yards after catch threat. He should be getting those dump off passes, those screens. If he can learn how to run option routes, he's going to be extremely dangerous. And I think, this is what I said, before he was drafted. It was like, if you look at his athletic testing, he's basically like a run focused Deebo Samuel. They're like identical in terms of their athletic testing. And I think with Bijan, he's more of a runner, obviously, because that's his background. But he can do Deebo Samuel things. They're the same athlete. But you have to coach Bijan up as a receiver, whereas, Deebo, they had to sort of teach him how to be a running back. And Bijan's going to get a lot more carries than Deebo will, and vice versa. But, there's no reason you can't do that. But it hasn't been clean so far. But I like that he's getting more touches in general, especially carries. I can't see the justification for not giving him more touches, especially early in games when you really need to start stressing out the defense. But, I got a lot of problems with the way they call this offense, but I think I think ultimately the players are pretty good. And I think that's the hardest part is we're not really seeing the players utilized properly, but I think they have all the pieces here. So like, I'm just wondering like if we see like some other coaching staff come in and all of a sudden this offense is like amazing and it's like, oh wow, like it actually isn't this hard. Like all this stuff about variables and like we can't just throw it to our best players. That's too obvious. Like maybe it's all like a bunch of hooey, which is what I think it is. And not that I'm like pining for guys to get fired. Like I want this to work. Like I want Arthur Smith to pull this out and figure out how to use these players. But this offense just looks so difficult, and it really shouldn't be. You've got a good offensive line. Ridder can throw the ball. He's mistake prone, but he can throw it. He can run it. You have great running backs. You have multiple receiving options that should be at least elevating you above average. And it's like it just looks so difficult. Like everything is so hard.
And we're in week 12.
Yeah. They didn't do anything at the bye. This offense looked exactly the same, except maybe Bijan got a few more carries. But like, what other changes did you make? This passing game was ineffective. You didn't make any changes.
I think you didn't think they were better with play action. I thought they created some nice
looked a
chunk plays
little. Yeah, but they've been trying to do that all year. There wasn't anything different there, in my opinion. I mean, they were successful, but like
they're just more successful.
I don't like there were no fundamental changes to the scheme, and that to me is a huge indictment because this scheme wasn't working. You're scoring less than 20 points a game. You don't make any significant changes, which to me is just cementing the fact that they think the scheme is fine, that the players aren't executing. But it's like, why are all the players not executing? It's not because the players all suck. I guarantee it. These are NFL players. We've seen them be successful multiple places all over the league. So why aren't they executing properly in your offense? Why is your offense causing them problems when it wasn't causing them problems at their previous stops? Why? I don't have the answers. I'm not a coach, don't ask me to figure it out. I'm not getting the big bucks. I'm not getting a guaranteed, NFL coaching contract to figure this out. But, I'm just here to ask the questions that I know the fans have, and I know you are too, Alan, and it's frustrating. But they did win this game, by the way.
Kurt Warner can answer this.
Yeah.
Get Kurt Warner on the job, Dan.
Can't slander my man Kurt Warner for that, legitimate critique. But, it's tough. Yeah, we got Mahmoud Faroud, I think is how you say it. Mahmoud Faroud. What's up, man? Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, do you see what happens when all three running backs get the ball? Bijan's elusiveness, Patterson's power running, and Tyler as the battering ram. Yeah, I mean, they should use all three running backs. It's like, but I think what we saw in the last drive was what I'd like to see. Like Tyler Allgeier comes in fresh and can just batter a team down when the Falcons have a lead. But I think Allgeier's like a front-running running back, if that makes sense to you guys. Like, he's a guy that you put in to dominate a team that's already tired from, like, chasing Bijan around all day. I don't think you open a game giving a lot of carries to Tyler Allgeier because he doesn't stress the defense out. He's hard to tackle, but that's not as big of a thing when the defense is fresh. What you need is a guy that's going to make people miss, create mistakes, because when the defense is fresh, they're going to be able to match. They're going to be able to match up with your blocks better. They're going to be able to make more sound tackles. They're not as tired. They're not as worn down. That's when Bijan's there, because Bijan can make magic happen out of nothing. It can look like it's going to fall apart, and he'll just slip a tackle, and it's a 10-yard gain. Allgeier's not doing that, like especially early in the game when the defense is fresh. So I think there is a role for Allgeier, and I still think getting him like 10 carries a game is perfectly reasonable. But like Bijan should be dominating the snap share early in games because he's the one that's going to make those dynamic plays and help get you the lead that you need to really unleash Tyler Allgeier late in games. And this was like one of the first times we've even seen that happen because they've so rarely had a lead. They've had to come back over and over and over again in the fourth quarter, pretty much every week it seems like. So there's a lot of criticism for this win. But again, I would say that like it was a win. It's a win over your most hated rival, FTS, right? Fuck the Saints. I'll say it, expletive. I'm putting it on. It's too late. But like
viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, viewer discretion advised. Shout out to the guy that sent the email about us about our profanity being an insult to God. I honestly don't know if that was trolling or not, but if it was,
it's the holiday season.
Top-notch stuff. Top-notch stuff, guys. But that's the thing these days. I can never tell sometimes with really good trolling or like actually anger. But yeah, let me get to our last question here from Jason Gates. What's up, Jason? The $2 says, Aints wide receiver Michael Thomas, who hasn't produced on the field at all in the last 3 years, was also arrested 2 weeks ago for allegedly throwing a brick through a construction worker's vehicle. Instead of Slant Boy, his new name is Brick Boy.
That's actually a good one.
I like that. Good one there, Jason. Appreciate you.
Hey, we'll see what happens to him, but hey, let's not these two teams we facing last week.
Yeah.
By the way, that game has all the makings of being, because you know how they did last year with the Titans Jaguars.
Yeah.
Why have that's gonna be like a Saturday night, 8:15. And look, say what you want about the Saints though, but playing a primetime game in the Superdome is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So if the Falcons could somehow win the division before Week 18, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that would be great if we could. The Saints have that look of a team that could literally just fall apart at any time. Like they're really just not good. I mean, we saw that. Like this team is all hype and no substance. Like it was just like they've got all these playmakers, they spent all this money, and it's like, oh wow, this team is really not good.
Them and the Bucs are eerily similar, where they got an aging roster, but they still have enough talent where you have to respect them. But you don't really like their coaching staffs. Their quarterbacks are as lackadaisical as it gets. So, I mean, this is really the Falcons' division to lose. I know it sounds wild to say that considering how down we've been, but I mean,
division
it really
is so bad, Alan. Like
to me, the toughest opponent left is the Colts.
Yeah,
like, I really like what the Colts are doing. Like to me, that's probably the toughest.
Maybe the
game.
Bears with Fields. I mean, I don't know. Like,
wait,
they're
they play the Bears?
Yeah, we play the Bears at some point, right? I'm pretty sure we do.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure we do. It's like week 17, I think. I'll check it. I'll check it.
Yeah, I thought they played the Colts week 17.
They do play the Colts. I think they play the Colts after the So it's
not messing around. They have a great coaching staff. I don't think they play the Bears.
Yeah, well, this is a good time to talk about the rest of the season real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we got the Jets next week in New York. Hopefully you'll be there. Fingers crossed. We're gonna pull out the stops if we can. And then we got the Bucs. Yeah. We're not gonna stir the pot on air. We'll be emailing people. But we got the Bucs at home in week 14, at the Panthers in week 15, and I think they're about to fire Frank Reich like imminently. It seems like we'll see.
That team is just dead.
That team is so bad. Like, let's take a quick break here. Like, I like that coaching staff. I was like, oh wow, they got Frank Reich, they got Andrew Thomas, he's an up and comer. They got Ejiro Evero. That has been the biggest disaster I've ever seen. I honestly don't know why that team is so bad. I can't believe it.
I mean, sometimes like you like a coach, but it's just gone wrong too often. Like I like Frank Reich, but it's just the last 2 years have just been a total abomination. Like,
he needs to be an offensive coordinator. Yeah. Yeah,
maybe that'd be the deal. Kind of like what Todd Bowles is probably best at, and Vic Fangio. Like, there's some guys that are just better as coordinators.
Yeah.
So,
and that's okay.
But they have like, to me, one of the worst supporting casts the last 5 years.
They do. But
like we saw week 1, they have nobody to stretch the field. Nobody.
And Mingo is not
hit. If there's ever a running back that was more of a product of the system, watch Miles Sanders with the Eagles. Like,
this is exactly what I said before the season. Yeah, I was like, oh, they let Deontay Foreman walk so they could give $6 million a year to Miles Sanders. That's a big mistake. Deontay Foreman's been good, and the Bears got him for nothing because the Panthers were like, nah, we don't need him. We're gonna go sign Miles Sanders, who had like the most yards before contact of any running back in the NFL by far behind that Eagles line, and then I think the worst yards after contact of any running back in the NFL. So like, man, talk about mistakes. But yeah,
do we have week 16.
Week 16 is the Colts after the Panthers. That's Colts at home, and then 17 is at the Bears.
Wow. Okay. Sorry about that. Did not.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's gonna be a cold weather game, the only one of the season.
Oh.
I don't know if the Jets will actually be cold. We'll see. I mean, it was cold today.
It'll probably be cold. New York is already. As someone that lives nearby, it sucks right now.
I mean, yeah, I live in Syracuse, so I mean, I know it's cold. Yeah. It's cold. It was cold this weekend. Look,
I think this team was kind of built to play in the cold. We'll see, I guess, but
they should be theoretically, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, look, when it comes to schedule, like there is nothing daunting here. Like I think the Colts is the hardest one, and that's a home game. And if anything, this team has done, they've been relatively good at home. They have, yeah. So I mean, it's like Zach Wilson wasn't good, but he was better than Tim Boyle. So like, I mean, I feel like they're catching a break by going up against Tim Boyle next week. And like you said, the Jets have allowed a ton of rushing yards. In terms of yards per carry, they're just like below average. I think they're like 20th or something, but actual yards allowed, they're like 31st because again, teams just like don't fear that offense at all. So they're like, well, we're just going to run the ball and we're going to be fine with that. And I think the Falcons should absolutely do that. Like, don't put the ball in the air. Do not give that defense an opportunity to intercept that because they will, because they're great. They're amazing. Bootlegs, that's it. Yeah. We can get into this, and we can talk about in the future, but I think the Falcons are running empty. Like, I would love to see the stats of like how teams efficient our teams in empty. Like, I think Falcons are one of the worst teams in running empty. I feel like whenever they go 5 wide, more times than not. Just like
Yeah. This team should never run empty, because if they can't threaten the run, they're lost. Like, don't even pretend that you're going to throw the ball. Just line up and pat. Just line up and run. Like, or do play action or something. But yeah, don't mess around with that Jets defense. Just run the ball, because the first to 12 points probably wins that game. So, then you get the Bucs at home, and Baker Mayfield's hurt. He came back into that game, but he was like limping after the game. He was getting looked at. He was like, yeah, I'm starting to feel it now. So like, there is a decent chance that we get to play Kyle Trask. Hopefully not in his first start, because if it's his first start, we're doomed. Falcons are 0-3 against quarterbacks in their first starts except for the Panthers. They beat Bryce Young in his first start. Yeah. But and then it's this next 3-game stretch, like they honestly probably have to win these next 3 games. Like they need to. Which is ridiculous to say coming off a 3-game losing streak and finally getting a win. But it's like, you probably got to win these next 3 to have a realistic shot. But if you do, you'll be a game above, you'll be 2 games above 500 then if you manage that. So,
And these division tiebreakers will count. I mean, 3-0 division is nothing to be short-sighted. They've handled their business in the division. So
yeah. And if they win the next 3, they'll be 5-0 in the division. So like,
all three of them been definitive wins too. Like they fully deserved all 3 wins. So you gotta give credit where it's due, man. They've delivered in the division. They put themselves opportunities. So hopefully, I hope this is something they could build on, because besides the offensive miscues, and I do want to mention it, I want to say I'm overly concerned, but Jeff Okudah, yikes, he was a problem today. Derek Carr was targeting him, some bad penalties. So hopefully Okudah is just bad, because I think he's having a really solid season. But today was just a little bit of like, is it? Hopefully it's just Olave, but you just expect more from him. But that's all.
Yeah, no. Ultimately, like you sort of, and that's going to happen. It happens to, like, we've seen Terrell have bad games. Okudah's going to have bad games.
So, good
now,
point.
If I see Mike Hughes out there starting in place of D. Alford again, I'm gonna slap somebody, because like, what in the hell was that? Like, are you serious with that? Like, I mean, I know we touched on it earlier, but man, like, what in the hell are you thinking? Like,
and it was interesting. Trey Flowers even saw a couple times, and credit to him, he made a
great
play. I've been sealed the edge, or set the edge, excuse me. And I was talking to Aaron about this. Everyone loves Aaron Freeman, the man who's not on really Twitter anymore, but nevertheless, we were talking about like Trey Flowers. If you're covering like if the team, because they've been, it's like they've been struggling against tight ends. Trey Flowers is kind of like a tight end eraser when he was on the Bengals. So maybe Trey Flowers in dime packages could be utilized as somebody, because he is a physical presence. Just don't put him on the outside, expect him to cover speed receivers.
Yes. You're right, Alan. I don't know why the hell they haven't been doing this. Like, literally, that's what I said when they signed him. It's like, well, he's not a great corner. He's not great against, unless they're like big receivers. He's not really going to be able to match up against any shifty receivers. He's going to get dunked on. And that's what happened when he had to start, But he was a great run defender.
Like, they could have used him as Trey McBride.
Yes. Like, he is basically a safety in a quarterback's body. He's a tight end matchup corner. That is what he is. And he stops the run. He stops the run really well. Like, I think he has like an elite PFF run defense grade, and he always has. Like, Trey Flowers is a great run defender and a tight end matchup player. Why are we making Richie Grant play man coverage when you have Trey Flowers? Like, I don't understand what the point of signing Trey Flowers was if you're going to make Richie Grant play man coverage against tight ends. Like, that's why he's here. That's literally Trey Flowers' thing. So, like, even the defensive coaching staff I question. And, like, I've given Ryan Nielsen a lot of credit, and he deserves it for turning this defense around so spectacularly, but I will never understand Mike Hughes over D. Alford. And if the answer is like, well, we're not sure D. Alford was ready to play, don't make him active. If he's not ready, like, don't make him active. What are you doing? Like, and he looked ready to me. I mean,
yeah, he had a nice pass breakup on the comeback. There was one, so that's like the one criticism. But overall,
overall defense,
great blitzes too. The blitzes guy after Carr too. So
they managed to keep Taysom Hill from running all over them. This defense has not done that before. So great job.
Taysom Hill earned those yards.
Yeah, I mean they rocked him a few times. So good on those guys for that. But so it's this. There's still some questionable stuff going on. We need to activate Clark Phillips. Yes, Nico, absolutely. Like I don't. Mike Hughes, like, UCF legend Mike Hughes. Okay, like, all the respect.
Yeah, this has to hurt the brand right now.
But like, no, like, I'm sorry, no. Like, if I'm saying it, it's time. Like, no, 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 no. Like, he just gets worked by every single guy he goes up against, and he doesn't tackle well either. So, like, I don't know what the point is. Like, Clark Phillips doesn't tackle well against the run, but at least he can cover. Like, so it's just, man, it's brutal. But they did win today, by the way, guys. But they won ugly, so that there is some criticism necessary. But they beat the Saints. Hell yes. Like, what do you think? Like, just throwing this out there before we sign off. Are you like expecting this to continue, or is this just a flash in the pan against your rival and they're going to go back to shitting the bed immediately after this game?
No, I think the offensive line, the running game, I really think they can build on this. That, to me, that's the biggest takeaway. I know Saints defense is not quite the same, but we want man Parker he's a big addition. If like McGarry's going to run block that dude, kill McGarry.
The man can run block, okay? The man can run block.
And Bergeron gets more comfortable. And look, I don't know how many pure dropbacks they have, but like Ridder, unless maybe one sack, but Ridder really wasn't touched. Like, and Granderson has had a really good year.
He's been really good.
Jordan's
yeah.
Age, but dude, Granderson's had a big year, and like pass protection, it held up even when like those big 7-step dropbacks. Like, I really thought the offensive line with the running game was the biggest highlight in this game. So, I mean, it's a huge thing because offensive line, they've had games where they played well, but then they've had games where they've completely crashed. You look at that Lions game in particular. So if the offensive line could just stay at this pace with the running game, they really have something to build on, and just give Ridder favorable situations and let Ridder and London continue building that rapport, because it's clear they're always in sync. So no, I'm genuinely encouraged by this one. I think this was a really good win. It's just a matter of let's just try to play mistake-free football, and defensively, I guess I only really got to look at the secondary. I just think the secondary had like 4 penalties. Mainly Okuda just cleaned that up, and otherwise, there's no reason why this team can't win 9-10 games. And unfortunately, play the Cowboys in the first round, which is what it is. I guess we'll just enjoy it.
Yeah,
maybe Dan Quinn will do a nice interview with the staff. And,
yeah, the one thing is like the Cowboys, more than like any other of these like top teams, has like shown that they just will randomly lose games. Like the Cardinals game, like
they could blow you up by 35.
Oh yeah, they could. But like against the Cowboys, there's like there's that slight chance that they just like play a terrible game, and especially in the playoffs, because they've done that a lot. They've blown it in the playoffs over and over and over. So like, and for the Falcons, like, we're not going to be expecting them to beat the Cowboys. So for us, it'll be like, we're going to crack some beers. We're going to crack some beers. We're going to chill. It's like, okay, if anything happens good in this game, it'll be a nice surprise. Yeah. And like that sort of atmosphere can be fun. And like, it'll just be nice to make the playoffs. I don't care if they get waxed. Like, it's been since 2017, goddammit. Let's do it. Like, just make the damn playoffs. I don't care if you get waxed. Just do something, okay? I'm tired of watching losing football. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. Like, do it. Come on. Like, this, you can't make it any easier than it is now, okay? You're 3-0 in the division. You've beaten every single team and made them all look stupid. You have this easy-ass schedule.
Made them all look stupid. That's really well said.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can't, Arthur Smith, if you cannot make the playoffs now, like, I'm sorry. Like, it's never going to happen. Like, this is literally, it's like it's like, Moses clearing the path. Like, the ocean has parted for this opportunity for you to take this dysfunctional ass team to the playoffs. The sea has parted. You got a clear path. And I feel like still somehow there's like at least a 50% chance that they're just going to veer off into the waves anyway. It's like, oh, well, I know, like, if we just go straight down where the sea has parted, like, we'll get there. But, like, that's what they're expecting, Alan. So if we just veer off into the waves, they won't be expecting that. We can sneak around, So just stay on the path, okay? Do the easy thing. Get the dubs. How about we just goddamn just beat the team next week? Let's just beat the Jets. Let's beat Tim Boyle. So then we can talk. Yeah. Okay. Let's beat Tim Boyle, then we can talk. We'll come back, if they beat Tim Boyle, then we can start, we can start the hype train.
It is exciting. It is exciting though, because if they would have lost, you'd be starting breaking out draft takes.
Oh yeah.
So now the draft takes are not a part of this conversation for at least the next month. So
yes, it's funny because the draft pick has like I think we like went back like 18 spots in the like 10 spots in the draft or 11 like something like that from this win. So it's hilarious, but yeah.
Falcons Giants. We're not going the right direction, but I guess we gotta embrace this.
Yeah, whatever it is, but let's just get this done. Let's beat Tim Boyle for God's sake. Like for God's sake, beat Tim Boyle, please. We've lost to like Josh Dobbs. I'll accept because Josh Dobbs is awesome, but like we got to stop losing to these quarterbacks, man. We got to start getting some. Yeah, there we go. Nico # Lance the Boyle. I like it. Oh man. All right, real quick. Let me bring you guys an update on our prize picks today. Real quick, let me pull that up. All right, guys. So big dubs today, right? We had a promotional pick from Prize Picks where they were doing a special on Thanksgiving with Christian McCaffrey, where all he had to do was get more than a half rushing or receiving yard. So that obviously was a layup. We took that one. That one obviously hit. That would be embarrassing if it didn't. Then I rolled the dice on Antonio Gibson coming off his injury to get more than 15.5 receiving yards. Never in doubt. He got 16. Nailed it. Nailed it. A little sweaty on that one, but yes, on the last drive he did get that like 2-yard catch to get us over the hump there. And then we went, God bless Antonio Gibson and Eric Bieniemy. And then we got, of course, Bijan Robinson. Who else do you trust in this Falcons offense? The answer is no one. Getting more than 62.5 rushing yards. He had 91, so easy peasy there. Don't think we'll see that rushing yardage that low ever again for Bijan this season. But still enjoyed it. But guys, real quick, if you're new to the Prize Picks scene, it's great. It's daily fantasy. It's a lot of fun. We've been playing it here this season. So if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely give it a look on Prize Picks. Hold on. On Prize Picks, guys, it's a skill-based daily fantasy game. You pick 2 to 6 players, decide if they will go more or less than their projection. The more you pick, the more you can win, all the way up to 25 times your money on any entry. When you sign up, make sure you use our promo code DBB for Dirty Birds and Brews. And that's a 100% deposit match up to $100. So if you put in 100, they'll give you 100. If you put in 50, they'll give you 50. Just make sure to sign up with that promo code DBB to get that to work. And notably, guys, Prize Picks available in Georgia along with 31 other states. It's the best way to have action on the game in those areas where there's not a lot available yet. So definitely check that out. And again, Prize Picks, you're not competing against other people like other daily fantasy, just you versus the projections. And again, check out those promotions like they had the Thanksgiving one. They usually do stuff on Tuesday, and then they have a Flex Friday where you can usually get a free or discounted entry, get some promotions there. So check that out and keep that open. It's also not just NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA, all kinds of stuff. It's all on there, and the entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's super easy, guys. So if you're interested, check it out and use our promo code DBB. Alan, I think we covered it. Is there anything else you wanted to get to before we sign off?
One more shot for Jessie Bates.
Yeah.
Just
we're not worthy. We're not worthy,
man. And like he's just been doing this all season. I think we should greatly appreciate because how many like true All-Pro defensive players can we really say have played for the Falcons for the past 15 years, other than maybe John Abraham and maybe like prime Desmond Ridder here and there? It's like he's just exceptional, and like those, like I'm telling you, folks, if you watch those turnovers over and over again, like that's just as good as it gets. So major kudos to him, and yeah, man, fun times ahead. And like you can just tell people, like our spirits are lifted high. Like we brought a lot of passion, we brought a lot of fire. I mean, we're always gonna bring the passion, but like this was like positive passion. Like,
yes.
Like,
despite my critiques, it's ultimately positive critiques this week because. Like it was ugly as hell, and they still won by 9 points. So, like yes, like get the defense. Big props, big salute to the defense for doing that, and the offense, the run game. Great job, guys. The passing game, it's a work in progress. We need to get Kyle Pitts an advocate or something. Like I don't know if he needs legal counsel against Arthur Smith at this point, something. But like this team's bread and butter: run the ball, hit play action shots off of the run. They need to just do that, like, and especially in the red zone. Like, if you don't at least run one play, like give one rushing attempt to Bijan before you try throwing the ball, you're just asking for problems. Like, at least give Bijan one chance before you put the ball in the air, because we've seen this so many times that they turn the ball over in the passing game in the red zone, or they get sacked and fumble. Like, at least give the running game a chance to punch it in before you start going into your bag of whatever the hell it is. I don't even want to say tricks. I mean, it's tricks for us almost as much as the opponent.
Yeah. Or you use them as decoy, because I think there was one play where they faked it to Bijan and then they ran up the gut with Cordell Patterson, and you saw like the linebackers went towards Bijan and like it cleared a lane for Patterson. So look, I know people make fun of Arthur Smith for saying, "Oh, we found ways for Bijan to be effective without the ball." That is one example right there, because he commands so much respect, and it just makes other plays better, like a Cordell pass.
Yeah.
So
just have him on the field. I don't care if you don't have to give it to him every play, but at least have him on the field. Like,
because he's going to command that attention. Yeah.
I don't understand how you can draw up red zone plays with that. Like, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson should be on the field for every single red zone play. I don't care if they're not. What are you doing? Like,
that's the model.
It's just like, those should be the staples. And then you figure out the other two skill position guys. Maybe it's Keith Smith if you want to go run heavy. Maybe you put Michael Pruitt in there, Parker Hesse. Maybe you go to another receiver. But, like, those are your guys. They should be on the field on every red zone play. I mean, obviously there's going to be exceptions. Like, but, like, I would say, like, 75% of red zone plays should have those three players on the field. And you got to figure out a way to get the ball to those guys. And, like, stress out the defense with all these weapons, all these guys. Like, I don't understand why we don't see more London on one side, Kyle Pitts on the other, Bijan in the backfield. And it's like, okay, are you going to give one-on-one coverage to those guys on the outside? Or are you going to, put safety help over there and then give a light box in the middle? Like, they're not even stressing the defense sometimes with these tight formations and all this stuff. Like, it just, you got to stop beating yourself. Yeah.
They have the personnel.
Yes.
You wait 3 top 10 picks with the personnel, but
you're making it so easy for the defense. You're like, oh, they're not even going to put their top guys out there. Okay, great. We don't even have to worry about Kyle Pitts because he's not playing. Or, oh, they're just going to have Kyle Pitts block Danielle Hunter. Oh, I bet that'll go well.
Look,
anyway,
I think next week's going to be fun. I know it's a very favorable matchup, but I want to see what this offense could do against a truly elite defense. I know we critiqued the Jets defense a little bit, but there's still no mistake. Like, they made Josh Allen look bad. They made Mahomes look bad. They made Jalen. Only team to beat the Eagles. Let's mention that. Like, this defense is still for real, even though they have been gashed on the ground. Like, they are going to cause problems. So I'm very curious to see. We're going to really see what this coaching staff is made of going against the Jets defense. Yeah,
exactly. They got to win this game. They can't. If they lose this game, they're just right back to where they were. The Saints are probably taking over first place again. Like, I mean, I don't even know who they're playing, but
they're playing the Lions, and they're going to be playing a very well-rested, pissed-off Lions team. So
okay, never mind. Yeah, the Falcons are probably staying in first for at least one more week.
But, I mean, this is a golden opportunity for them to take control.
They haven't done this all year. They've had opportunities to build this lead, to cement their place. And, like, to their credit, like, this was a must-win game. I think it's the first must-win game Arthur Smith has won in his entire coaching tenure here in Atlanta. Like, every must-win game they've had, they've blown up to this point. So maybe they're turning over a new leaf, and we're going to start stacking some dubs. But I'll believe it when I see it. And don't throw the ball towards Sauce Gardner. Just whoever he's guarding, just pretend that player's not in the game, because nothing good will come of that. Let Sauce get his man. You figure out the rest, and probably you should just not throw the ball much at all. I would bet the unders on the Falcons passing game next week, folks.
Put Drake London in the slot, and hopefully Sauce doesn't trail. That's all you do.
Yeah, that's all you can hope for. But Alan, really appreciate your time today, folks. He's at Alan Strk on Twitter. Anything else you'd like to plug before we sign off tonight?
I mean, no, we're fully back in full force. Bye week's over. We're going to have the content pumping all week.
Hell yeah, we'll get into that. Finally, a win to talk about instead of all this endless depression and mock drafts. We'll have plenty of mock drafts in the offseason. Don't worry. Like, there'll be plenty of that. Maybe we can go a couple weeks without another mock draft. We'll see. But yeah, guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. You can follow us there. Like I said at the top of the show, we have channel memberships on YouTube now if you want to support the show, get early access to all the videos coming out, that sort of thing, as well as some cool chat stuff, emojis and all that. We're working on more of that stuff as well. Check it out on the YouTube channel. If you're on the podcast platform, check out the Patreon if you want early access to the podcast episodes, among other things. Today's show is, of course, brought to you by PrizePicks and BetOnline. Please like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. That really helps us out. Leave that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. We will see you guys early this week. I'll be joined once again by Jordan Watkins for another episode of Trench Talk. Finally, another dominant run game to break down. We haven't had the opportunity to do that in a while, so happy to talk about some positivity in the offensive trenches at least, and we'll get to that. And then, of course, we'll have another Falcaholic Live coming to you on Wednesday as we get into December. Falcons playing meaningful December football, quote unquote. It's not exactly what we hoped, but they are playing meaningful December football, Alan. So, with this team, I feel like you just have to take it where you can get it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
We'll just, we won't talk about the details of that, but we will just enjoy that they're playing meaningful games in December. So
the march to being over 500.
Yes, this is the ultimate challenge. Can you finish with a better than 7-10 record? And can you not get the 8th overall pick for the third year in a row? We'll see. But Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Falcon Lives Falcons vs. Saints post-game show. We'll see you next time. And until then, enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. We'll see you next week. Have a great night, folks.